Hello, and welcome to Pod4Cure, the All4Cure podcast for patients with multiple myeloma, their families, and everyone in between. Today, I am joined by Terry, a multiple myeloma patient, champion weightlifter, and I'm really excited to get to talk to you today, Terry. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 63 years old. I live in Central California. I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in December of 2019, and I've been through treatment, stem cell transplant, and currently in, I guess you kind of call it remission or complete response, MRD negative. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Excellent. So, Terry, I wanted to invite you on today and talk a little bit about something that now, post pandemic, everybody can get back into, and that is the gym and exercising. Something that I feel like you have a unique perspective on as somebody who has had a history with not only sports in general, but with weightlifting. What was your history with exercise and fitness throughout your life and even before your diagnosis?
When I was younger, like in high school, I was on the football team, pole vaulted and ran track, and played soccer in the wintertime. So I was always doing sport during high school. And then after high school, I joined the military. And when I got out, I got married and had a family. So never really played any collegiate sports. After that, I was always involved in some kind of athletics. Like I played ice hockey, I mountain bike raced. And then I got in later in life. After my kids got grown, I got into CrossFit for a while. And then CrossFit kind of led me into weightlifting. It's like strength was always, I guess you call my strong suit. So I got into masters weightlifting, and I competed throughout California in a masters group and division. And then in 2017, went to Masters Nationals. I won first place in my weight and age group. So it's always been a really, good activity. My daughter weightlifts, and she kind of helped get me into it because it gave us opportunity to train together and see each other once a week. So that's kind of, my athletic background briefly.
That's really cool. And when you say weightlifting, is that similar to the more bodybuilding powerlifting side, or is it a whole
Yeah.
different beast?
So for a lot of people that don't know, it's called Olympic weightlifting. It's actually what you see in the Olympics. There's only two lifts. It's the snatch and the clean and jerk. Definitely not anything to do with bodybuilding. And there's also another sport that a lot of people are involved in, which is powerlifting, which involves three lifts. That's like squat, bench, and deadlift. And so I would say Olympic weightlifting, Olympic weightlifters just call it weightlifting. But anyway, that is probably a lot more athletic because you have to have quickness, strength, and speed and coordination, as opposed to, powerlifting is probably a little bit easier because, you're not moving so fast. A lot of people describe Olympic weightlifting as like gymnastics with the barbell, right? So sometimes it may not look that hard, but until you try it. So anyway, there's a lot of technique. If you actually train as a weightlifter for competition, I probably for the last 5-6 years, I did that up until my diagnosis. In fact, that's what kind of led me to my diagnosis, because I had a tumor on my spine and it was causing, nerve pain and nerve damage. And it actually prevented me from training or lifting. I was training for a meet, and I thought that I had some kind of pulled muscle or something like that, and went to the doctor. One thing led to another. They finally discovered a tumor on my spine. So in a way, I credit, being physically fit or, just training kind of led to probably an earlier diagnosis maybe than if I would have been like a sedentary person. So
That's amazing. I mean, I've spoken to other multiple myeloma patients who have had kind of similar things that have happened. These activities that they love to do are actually what ends up catching something early on that maybe could have gotten worse before actually coming to light. After finding that pain, did you then just go see your doctor right away? And were they able to diagnose it fairly quickly?
I would say it wasn't really quick. It was like a 6-month period. Kind
Mhm.
of when I think back, I wish things would have happened different, but I think I've heard so many stories, with other myeloma patients. I'm in a support group, just people that, how they finally discovered what it was. I went to physical therapy thinking that I had a pulled muscle or something. I did that 8 weeks where, I didn't really do any kind of x-rays or scans or anything. And then after 2 months of that, pain wouldn't go away. So then I went back to the doctor, had x-rays, and then finally a CT scan, which of the spine, which where they saw a mass, and then they did an MRI. So the whole process, from when I started feeling pain and couldn't train, took about 6 months to actually figure out, where I got to the point where I go, oh, you have multiple myeloma and you have a mass on your spine. But, I've listened to other stories where people have gone on for a year, 2 years and not knowing that they had it, when they actually had some kind of symptoms.
Had you known what myeloma was before you were diagnosed? I know some people, the first time to hear about this disease is when they get the diagnosis.
No, I didn't have any idea what multiple myeloma was. Before, I did have a really good friend that had multiple myeloma, but a year earlier than me, and he was I would guess, similar person, really athletic, physically fit, did CrossFit. And I just knew him as having cancer, not, I never knew the details of it until, then I was diagnosed. But no, I'd never heard of it. I became educated pretty fast.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It becomes not only figuring out how can I stop this, but what is this?
Yeah.
It's only been a couple of years now since you were diagnosed. How has your diagnosis affected your relationship with exercise and fitness? Do you still weightlift?
I do weightlift, but I've had to modify a lot. And I don't weightlift obviously as much weight because, damage to my spine and nerves. So I've kind of modified things. I definitely, I thought one of my goals, once I got done with the transplant was maybe to go back and try and compete. And that goal's kind of still out there, but I'm not going to kill myself if it never happens. I think after my transplant, I started to train and weightlift a little bit, but kind of discovered I was probably doing too much. But I still try to lift. I think with myeloma and being immune compromised, like for example, I think the month of June I caught a cold and wasn't sure what it was. It seemed like it lasted for a month. So I basically quit, doing any really good exercise for a month till that cold was gone. I think after my transplant, when I finally felt like I had some energy, I tried to do a little bit, but I know everybody's myeloma is different and kind of took it day by day. And if I felt good, I would do something, but nothing really structured like I used to do.
Yeah, I can understand the blow that can be for having to change your habits and adapt to the things that you like to make sure that, you're not hurting yourself. And especially with myeloma being a disease of the bone marrow and the blood, breaking bones is such a scary thing. I recall when we spoke earlier this year, you did mention your friend who you found out also had multiple myeloma. I remember him giving you some advice to say that when going into the stem cell transplant, that you wanted to be as physically fit as possible. Could you speak to that a little bit and maybe how you're prepared for that really big surgery?
Yeah. So yeah, stem cell transplant. So that my friend, he had gone through stem cell plant a year earlier, and he just said, you want to be in the best shape you can be in because it'll help because it's kind of tough. So it was actually difficult. I was doing the VRD treatment, which is Velcade, Revlimid, and dexamethasone, every week during that time. And I definitely did not feel like working out. And so when he was telling me this, like, you need to go in there strong. I was like, well, that's easy to say, but I don't feel like doing anything. So, I tried. I think I was fortunate in the fact that I was in pretty good shape when I did get diagnosed. So I didn't lose a lot, but I definitely was not as fit as I was. After 6 months, I actually did 5 months of the VRD treatment before my stem cell transplant. So I just approached it as, do as much as you can. And I think I did okay.
In that same kind of vein, do you have any advice for multiple myeloma patients who are possibly looking for safe and effective ways to exercise throughout either treatment or afterwards in remission?
I know I understand everybody's like myeloma affects them differently. One of the first things, you just want to take it slow and listen to your body. I think one of the best things you can do is just start out, walking, getting back on your feet and moving. I know that during my stem cell transplant, they had a physical therapist, and they said that the people that get out of the transplant, sometimes they keep you. I went to UCSF, and different facilities have different, I guess, methods for the stem cell transplant. They did say the patients who get up and walk every day usually do the best and get out of there the fastest. So I kind of had a goal when I was in there. Yeah, I kind of forced myself to walk every day around the floor in the hospital, which was pretty boring. But when I got out, I'd go for walks every day with my dog. I think, just mentally too, that is something that really helps too. And then after that, whatever exercise people are interested in, I don't have any recommendations. Just do what you enjoy and try to move, as much as you can.
Definitely. As my father always likes to remind me, a body in motion stays in motion. Going forward, I wanted to open the floor to you in case you wanted to share anything. I always like to throw that out.
I think, just one piece of advice that really helped me. I'm not a big social person, and I joined a myeloma support group in the Bay Area. I joined it during COVID, so they had gone to virtual meetings, but it's really been a good source for information. At first, I kind of thought, well, I don't really need to be in a support group. I didn't feel like I needed support, but I joined it just to kind of listen and learn. But I've really found that I enjoy it, and it's made a big difference. That's one of the things that I would, highly recommend for anybody that had myeloma or any kind of cancer. Support group really helped me. I'm a dog lover. My 2 dogs are sleeping at my feet right now. They've been a big help to me hanging around. So, especially during COVID. That's all I could offer as far as recommendations, I think.
Well, that's awesome. Join a support group, get a dog.
Yeah. Try to keep moving.
Keep moving, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Terry. It was really wonderful to be able to talk with you today.
All right. Well, thank you for having me and asking me to be on.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pod4Cure. If you or someone you know has multiple myeloma and would like to register with All4Cure for free, you can visit all4cure.com.